Good evening, Gills fans. Welcome back to the latest episode of Gills in the Blood TV. It's the middle of the week, which means it is match preview time, and Gills will be heading to Valley Parade this Saturday afternoon, looking to bounce back from 3 consecutive defeats in League Two since going top of the table at the end of September. Pleased to say that I'm joined by Sam Drake. He's a Bantams fan and also a YouTube vlogger. You can find him on Twitter and YouTube. I'll put his details in the description at the bottom of this video. Sam, welcome to the channel first and foremost, and appreciate you coming on.
Thank you very much for having on. How are we doing?
I'm all right. Like I said, yeah, aside from 3 defeats on the spin after going top, I'm absolutely fine. And yourself? It's been a sort of in and out start to the season. Streaky, I'd call it, but not poor.
Yeah, we've been very streaky under Graham Alexander even last season. We had a good start, then we had quite a lot of injuries, especially defensively, and we started getting them back last couple of matches, and yeah, we're starting to slowly turn things around.
So yeah, we'll just have a quick look at last 6 for both clubs. Walsall have taken, not Walsall, so that's who you played in the first round of 6. Bradford have taken 8 points from 18 from their last 6. So that was defeats against Walsall and Harrogate, and then there was 2 draws against Wimbledon and Morecambe, and most recently back-to-back wins against Newport County and Tranmere Rovers. You currently sit 8th on 18 points in a very congested top portion of the table. Gills have taken 9 points from the last 18 available, but them 9 came together, and then it's been followed by a trio of reverses. We currently sit 5th, a point ahead of Bradford on 19. It's a funny thing, form, isn't it, Sam? Because if you look at recent form, or if you said to people, maybe if you did a survey of 100 fans and said who's the team that's in better form at the moment, I think the majority would say Bradford City. But ironically, over the last half dozen, we've taken more points. But it's where them points come, isn't it? It's just a weird way that it works out. But how are you feeling in terms of coming into this game? Like you've mentioned, you've been streaky under Graham Alexander, but the back-to-back victories in your most recent 2 must give you confidence.
Well, the thing is, I've seen it many times now at Bradford City. I'd rather be playing a team like Port Vale who've gone on a brilliant run, because that's the team that will normally do better against. But it's the teams who have been on the dodgy run of form where we'll normally give them an early goal and we'll struggle to break them down. Obviously, Gillingham, we expect to be up there come the end of the season. So it'll be a tough game, but I think I'm feeling a bit more confident going into it, having them back-to-back wins and keeping a clean sheet on Saturday as well against a decent Tranmere side.
Yeah, I mean, they're a funny side of that. I mean, I think they were solid last season, but they had that little bit of stardust with Rob Apter, whereas this year they were solid to start with, but they don't have that, and they've been caught out in recent games. I think they're on a bit of a rough trot as well. But yeah, I think it'd be a close game. I remember last season's game at Valley Parade, we could have been 2 or 3-0 up. I think we missed 3 really good chances and then switched off just before half time and never looked like equalising in the second half. So yeah, how would you describe your start overall? Because I think it's 10 points from the first 5, so you were going along lovely at 2 points per game over them, and then it's only 8 from the last 6, which is not awful form. But obviously it's just been a bit streaky, like you say. So it was a good start. Then there was 4 without a win, and now it's back-to-back wins again.
Yeah, injuries have definitely played their part so far, especially defensively. I think on the opening day, we had a back 3 of Baldwin, Byrne and Kelly. And then by like game week 5 or 6, all 3 of them were out injured and for at least a month or so. So that certainly disrupted things. It meant we had to change formation. We've largely played a back 3 under Graham Alexander. Because of our lack of centre-halves, we then had to go to a 4-4-2. We got rid of all our wingers pretty much in the summer, and we were playing players out of position, and you could clearly see we looked very disjointed, and our better players we were not getting the best out of them. We weren't really creating many chances. We were conceding chances for fun, and that's why we went on the bad run. Recently, we've gone back to the back 3 in the last 2 matches, and it goes to show how important that formation is to us and how good we are in that system.
Yeah, I was looking at that last 2, like you say, it's gone back to a 3-5-2 or a variation on it. And a interesting point I looked in there, Brad Halliday has been employed as like an outside centre-half. Is that correct, looking at the apps I've been using? Has he been playing as like a right-sided centre-back as opposed to an orthodox right-back?
Yeah, so he'd started out the season playing as a right wing back, but he'd been a shadow of the player that he was last season. Obviously, got into the League Two team this season. We brought in Jay Bell on loan from Lincoln on deadline day, and we got rid of Alex Gilliard, and he was going to come in to kind of be a backup to Halliday. But he impressed in the EFL Trophy, did Jay Ben. Brad Halliday hasn't really done that, and Ben got his opportunity in the league, and he played really well. And then on Saturday, Halliday was, I think, meant to be on the bench, but Neil Byrne wasn't feeling very well, so he pulled out in the warm-up, and it meant Halliday then had to go in as a right-sided centre-half. It's not something we've seen him do. It's something that we expect he probably could have done, because I think defensively he's certainly better than going forward, because I think last season defensively he was absolutely excellent, but this season he seems to have lost half a yard of pace, so I think playing as a wide side centre-back would actually suit him a bit more than playing as a wing-back. But Yeah, I think he's solid enough to play in that position, but it was certainly a stopgap because I mean we brought Paul Huntington in and he didn't even get the opportunity to start. So it goes to show how much Alexander believes in Halliday. I think he's a good character and he likes to kind of lead with his performance, but so far this season he hasn't been particularly amazing at wing back.
Fair enough. Yeah, obviously it's a name that stands out for me because he scored the winner last season. And he was very good at right back. I think I had him in my League Two team of the year as well. I mean, there's plenty of sites out there that know a lot more than I do, but yeah, he was a player that was consistent all season. One player that's always consistent and he's always, I think, a thorn in our side. He's a thorn in most sides, and that's Andy Cook. He's got 7 in 11 already in League Two this season. I think he doubled up at the weekend at Tranmere to win the game for you. He's one of them players. You know what he does. Stopping him is a completely different thing, though. The only question I'd have, and obviously the form of Andy Cook's brilliant, and you can't argue with that at all, but would there be a bit of concern, Sam, if he was to have a significant period out of the side due to injury or anything like that? Because he scores a lot of your goals. I mean, he's already got 44, 45% of your goals in the league this season. I know you've got Dane Oliver, a former Gills player, and it's not really worked for a multitude of reasons, form, been out on loan, injuries. So yeah, what would the concern be? How concerning would it be? Sorry, if Andy Cook was to pick up an injury, would you then? Do you think you'd struggle?
Oh yeah, that'd be a massive concern. If Cook was to pick up any type of injury, I would really struggle to see us winning the football match because we just simply don't score enough goals. Our other quality of striker, it's such a massive drop off, and he should technically be on 8 goals because he had one wrongfully disallowed against Salford, and that would have obviously given us an extra 2 points. But he's so important to us, and I think at the weekend he actually lost quite a lot of in-play aerial duels against, I think it was Tom Davies, the Tranmere centre-half, but he pops up with 2 goals and 2 very different types of goals. We've not really seen him score many from outside the box, but the first goal, just to toe punt it into the bottom corner from outside the box through all them bodies, is a really good finish. But I think it's his aerial presence which is so important. And I think it's just the opposition know if they can stop Andy Cook, they're probably going to stop us from winning the football match. But it's then about how you stop him for the full 90 minutes because he might miss the odd chance, but he will traditionally score, especially this season. A lot of his chances, he's looking as slim as what he was a couple of seasons ago when he got 31 goals. And I think I would expect him to win the Golden Boot this season if he is to stay fit. But we saw last season and even the season where we got the playoffs where he got dropped for a few matches where we did struggle quite a lot in front of goal. And the standard of striker below Andy Cook is a massive, significant drop off. But he's, I think, 34 this week or next week, something like that. And he's still bagging him in for fun. And I think because his game isn't built on pace, he'll have quite a long career still in the Football League because he's a proven goal scorer at this level.
Yeah, it reminds me a little bit of Teddy Sheringham used to play in the Premier League. Like he's never been quick, Andy Cook, has he? It's always been that first half a yard is in his head in terms of his movement and just his ability to position himself between centre halves. But yeah, 7 goals, going along at 1 every 137 minutes is ridiculous. He's having 3 shots a game and 1.5 on target per game. So it's a 50% ratio in terms of the attempts he's having that are on target, and you're always giving yourself a chance if they're on target. Another player that really intrigued me, Sam, at the start of the season was Anthony Sarcevic, who you bought in from Stockport. Similar to Paddy Madden, who's now gone to Chesterfield, they just get promoted out of this division, it seems, wherever they go. I mean, they could probably just play in a team of 2 and they'd manage to get in the top 3. But I noticed he's only played 3 games so far in the league, so I'm assuming there's been an injury problem. Has his absence played a part in that streaky start to the season? Because you've said you've had loads of injuries. Obviously, he's a big player at this level. He's always been very good in League Two. And how long is he out for? Would be my second question as well.
Well, to answer that question, I think we're not going to see him until the new year. He played throughout pre-season, played the first couple of games of the season, and I don't think he was that influential. I think at times he was actually hindering us because we like to play on the counter, and as our 2 number 8s, we need a lot of energy in there, and he's not a quick player. He's much more technical. And I do think at times it was hindering us a little bit. Okay. And we saw players like Jamie Walker come back into the side, who's a very, very high pressing midfielder. And I think we've actually looked better from that point of view. But he's obviously a big bloke, as you know, he's a name which has got proven pedigree, so many promotions and a lot of goal contributions in the last couple of seasons. But I think he wasn't really standing out too much. I do think we lacked a bit of experience in that midfield when he picked up that injury, but with him being out until probably the new year. I think he got injured game week 3, for example, but he got injured a couple of games before, but he was still playing through it. And then he got to a point where the pain was too significant for him. We was told he was going to be 1 or 2 months. He's been out now for 6 or 7 weeks. And Alexander said, I think only last week he still got got at least a couple of months left. So it seems like it's either deteriorated or the original kind of diagnosis, it wasn't accurate, which is disappointing because we rely so much on goals from midfield, but we're not getting them. So we are now having to depend again on Andy Cook once more. And we brought Sarcevic in to kind of take a bit of pressure off of Cook. But if he's not going to be back now until the new year, he's going to miss at least half of the season.
Yeah, it's an interesting one because that was one of my sort of intrigues with where you'd employ Sarcevic, because Graham Alexander likes to play a 3 at the back, ideally. So then if you play 2 strikers, can you play him as a 10? Would you say that's his best role? Because then he can almost just pick up pockets of space in between the midfielders and the centre forwards, or did you try and shoehorn him into the side a little bit, and maybe that's why he didn't flourish as much as you probably hoped?
I'm not sure necessarily. I don't think many players have actually played in them positions because we kind of play Smallwood as the holding midfielder and then 2 players in ahead of him, the likes of Patterson, Point.
So it's a 1 and then a 4 rather than a 4 then a 1. Okay.
Yeah. So he'd kind of been playing in there. He started out the season with Alex Patterson, who scored an absolute worldie against MK Dons, but even he recently picked up an injury. And I think that lack of consistency in the side, his partner was changing and then he's come out of the side. It's been hard to really build a consistent side. And especially with us having to change the back 3, there was so many changes so early on that it was bound to just disrupt the team. But I do think he's going to be hopefully a good player when he's back fit and available. But if we carry on how we are currently playing, I think he'll struggle to get back into the starting 11.
Not a bad substitute to have, is he, when he is fit, I'm guessing. So every cloud and all that type of thing. What is the hope for 24-25? Because we hear it season after season. I know Bradford fans, they have the mickey taken out of them a little bit. We laugh at, on social media, there's banter goes around about, attendance FC and that type of thing. But it's a brilliant football club. It's a massive football club in League Two. The infrastructure, the backing, the capacity of the stands, the attendance levels are absolutely brilliant. Does it have to be playoffs, bare minimum, this season, or has it got to be top 3?
I think since the season we got relegated into League Two, the aim from the fans has always been get out of the league however you want to do it, but we should be aiming for top 3, if not to win the title. But the fan expectation and the reality from the board has always never really been aligned. They always say, well, we want to get promoted, but we never really have that ambition. We don't recruit in a way that looks like we're signing a lot of players who will get you out of this division. Recently we've been signing a lot of 34, 35-year-olds on 2-year deals, and then we'd be concerned and frustrated when they get injured, or we'd be signing injury-prone players and then be confused when they get injured. So our recruitment hasn't been amazing. The expectation for me is to win the league, as it should be, because we are on paper the biggest club in the division, but we don't act like the biggest club in the division. Teams like Fleetwood, with all due respect, they're obviously not as big as Bradford, but their infrastructure and their facilities and all that sort of stuff is so much better. We train at a school where sometimes having to be kicked off of the AstroTurf because there's a PE lesson going on there and all that sort of stuff. I think we did our kind of, when we returned for pre-season, we were doing a lot of fitness testing in the kitchen and in the canteen, which there's just a lot of things which you look at and you think, how are you a professional football club? But we're kind of not ran in a way which you would think, yeah, that's a team that's going to get promoted this season. I think it was only on Monday when we played Newport, David Sharp was saying, on the telly that he wants us to get us promoted in the next 3 seasons. But a lot of fans gave up after last season and failing once again last year. And the football club simply do not have another 3 seasons at this level. I know he's kind of said in the past where he's wanting to get Mansfield promoted and it's taken an extra couple of seasons to do that, and he doesn't want to overpromise and underdeliver. But the fans, I think, if we're not promoted this season or very, very close to it, you're going to lose a massive core of it. They lost a fair few last season. I see it all the time. People who've been going as a season ticket holder for 20, 30, 40 years saying that they gave up this season because they're sick of what's happening off the pitch. But the expectation for me would certainly, we have to get promoted at the absolute minimum.
So then where does that fall? That would be my next question. So if, say, you missed out on the playoffs by, a small margin, does that then fall on Graham Alexander, or are you saying that it's ownership issues and boardroom level that's causing the issues, not so much the manager, and maybe his hands are tied behind his back a little bit?
I think when we look at the previous managers who've been at Bradford City, the likes of Mark Hughes, Derek Adams, even Gary Boy, there's a lot of stubborn characters in there, and they kind of came out in the media and didn't really dress the fans up the right way. Whereas I think Alexander's going to get the extra time from the fans because he always kind of says it how it is and he doesn't try and pull the wool over your eyes. Whereas previous managers have tried to do that, and it might work for a couple, but when you've got 16, 17,000, there's going to be a lot of frustration there. And I think if it's similar to last season where we just miss out and we have some good moments, then I think the fans will probably stick with Graham Alexander, but it's more down to the recruitment and the actual budget. You know, we were told in the summer we're going to have significant investment from the owner, and we look at the signings, and on paper, only really Anthony Southwick looks like a player who's going to cost a lot of money. So unless we're overpaying from some of the other signings, I'm not really too sure where this significant investment has gone.
Yeah, that was probably what had me holding back in terms of putting you in the top 7 in my 1 to 24s at the start of the season. I had you 11th. Because I'd spoke to fans last season. I knew about the ownership issues and the fact that there didn't seem to be the right financing and the right environment. So number one, it proves my point why we get fans on like yourself, because like I did there, if you look as an outsider, you go Bradford, like you say, big stadium, big crowds, everything must be brilliant. But until you ask questions, you don't find out what the issues are and the reasons why you've been stuck in League Two for so long. Because, I mean, there's probably a lot of younger fans, Bradford and Gillingham, probably don't remember the fact that, well, you probably weren't born, but Bradford were in the Premier League at the turn of the millennium. Like, it's ridiculous. As a football fan, just of the game, I remember, I think it was when you beat Liverpool, I think David Weatherall scored a late header to keep you in the Premier League under, was it Paul Jewell?
It's a little bit before my time, but I think it was Paul.
Like, so this is ridiculous that the fact you're still in the 4th tier and you've been in there for what, the best part of a decade now?
We got relegated in 2019, so is this our 6th season in League Two?
It
feels like a decade.
It feels longer for me, so it must feel bad for you lot. But yeah, it's just great to get that sort of information and reasons why perhaps things aren't quite as they look from the outside looking in. In terms of Saturday afternoon and the immediacy of the game, Sam, I'm assuming unless there was injuries picked up on Saturday afternoon, because there's no midweek games for either side, you're not going to look too different to how you did in the win at Prenton Park against Tranmere, are you? Because the old adage, I know it's a massive cliche, but if it's not broke, don't fix it.
Yeah, I think hopefully Neil Burns should be back for that one, and he's been quite important for us so far. So I'd expect him to come in for either Chet Diabate or Brad Halliday. But apart from that, I don't think there'll be too many changes unless there has been like a training injury or something. But nothing I don't think's been reported in the media yet.
The only one I'm looking at was Jack Shepherd went off injured at the weekend. Is that correct?
Yeah, he had a bit of a clash with Amari Patrick, which was brilliant to see. But I think Alexander said it was just a dead leg on a similar sort of position where he had a couple of weeks ago. And he said he was fine to do it, but he couldn't really sprint. So I would expect him to be back for the weekend. But if not, Aidan Baldwin, I think, will be back available for this one. He's been training the last couple of weeks, but because he was out for quite a while, Alexander didn't really want to rush him back. But I think he should be back this weekend as well.
Fair enough. And apart from that, not many changes at all. So I remember Sam Walker making save after save first half last season. So hopefully he'll have an off day and an OS1 from last year. But obviously that's his job. In terms of Gills, there's still plenty of issues. Glenn Morris, our goalkeeper, went off injured last weekend. He's in the side because our other keeper, Jake Turner, who started as number 1, is still injured. So we might end up with Luca Ashby-Hammond in goal. We've still got doubts over Connor Masterson, who we've not seen since the opening day. Josh Andrews has been injured ever since we signed him, it seems like. Robbie McKenzie missed out last week, who's been one of our better players. I can't see Aaron Rowe, Bradley Dack or Jake Turner being fit. So it might be, needs must again, similar to yourself in recent weeks, and just go with who's available. But I'd make a couple of changes for Gills just to try and freshen it up, because we've not been good enough the last couple, but I'm not going to try and pick a team. Sam, I really appreciate your time and your knowledge. So thank you first and foremost. One final question before I let you go is obviously the dreaded score prediction.
Oh, tough one. I guess it really depends how we line up. But if I was to give a prediction now, I don't really like predicting us to win. I think I've only predicted us to win once all season so far. So I'll sit on the fence a bit. I'll go with a 1-1 draw.
That's probably head and heart mixed in there, because obviously if we play like we did final half hour against Accrington, or we did at Crewe for the entire, we'll get beat, because we won't stop Andy Cook if we play that badly. But I'm hoping we get a reaction to the last 3 games. And if we go up there and we play like we did at places like Notts County and Fleetwood and Morecambe, then I'm hopeful we'll get something. I'd take a draw 100% just to stop the rot and just get us moving in the right direction again. But no, like I say, appreciate your time. Thank you very much. It's been really enjoyable, mate. So like I say, I'll put Sam's description, details in the description at the bottom of the video. If you can go and give him a follow and subscribe to his channel, because there's some brilliant stuff on there. Content out pretty much every day, I'm sure of it. Gills fans and Bradford fans, if you are still watching at this point, like I say on every video, thank you very much. It is really appreciated. Please consider hitting that like button and please keep hitting subscribe. We are trying to get to 4K subscribers by the end of the season. I know it's a long shot, but you have to have ambition in this game, don't you? Be back probably Sunday for a match day, a review show with Reese, unfortunately not making the trip up this weekend due to other commitments. But enjoy the rest of your week. And until next time, up the Gills.